We are almost at the finish line of 2025. The holiday season is just knocking on our doors. And if you're a startup founder or a passionpreneur, this is the most critical time of the year in our lives where we are quietly asking ourselves too many questions rather than being very excited to spend this time with our family. I know that's the founder's heart, right? And we quietly ask ourselves, like, whether did I grow right this year? Really, did I double down on my revenue, or at least I have increased my revenue from 2024? Or did I, even did something for my product line to expand that is, has planned out, executed well, or even I met the metrics that I had defined for my own businesses to grow, scaled up, acquire more customers, or, defining my business in a more profound way. If your honest answer to any of these questions is somewhere between, I'm not sure. Well, I tried, but something really kept slipping from my hands, or, I just don't know where else I should have added the caliper. Then this is the right episode for you to tune in. Because, yes, you can reflect on your strategy, planning, consistency, customer acquisitions, all that really, really matters. But there is one deeper question that we don't ask ourselves enough, and that is whether we have the right operational legs to actually scale. Do you have the right space to think like a founder? Or are you still drowning in the same operational cycle that you had designed 18 months or maybe a couple of years ago? And the biggest question of all that is, do you have the right team besides you who knows what you stand for, where your vision missions are, or the cultural values that you're building the company with? It is a time to rethink on these lines as well. Believe it or not, whether it's a brutal or whatever it is, but that's an honest truth. As a founder, you must need to reflect. If you're unsure, if there is a doubt, if you feel that things are working but really not so working, you have tuned to the right episode. This episode of Passionate Pulse is brought to you by Atlantic.net, the official cloud hosting partner of the San Jose Earthquakes and the trusted choice for startups and developers. Get fast, secure, and compliant cloud hosting, plus free credits and a free 8 GB server for your first year. Use promo code PULSE50 at Atlantic.net while it lasts. Atlantic.net, built for builders, trusted by champions. Are you a VC or an investor looking to share insights and connect with game changing startups? Capital Pulse brings real conversations on funding, scaling, and startup success. Be our guest and share your expertise. Sponsor the series and gain premium exposure while supporting future changemakers over Silicon Valley's radio and across global podcast and YouTube platforms. Join us now. Email us at info@passionatepulse.com or simply call us at 341 209 0102 and join today. Today, we are deep diving onto hiring right, eliminating the chaos or the misalignment in your own businesses, firing smart without any guilt, and redefining your company from inside out. You'll get 5 important tips in today's Bootstrap Banter, plus tons of raw wisdom from my own consulting experiences where we are guiding businesses, startups, and founders to scale their businesses, restructure their teams, realign processes, and building the strong marketing and sales and pre-sales engine that actually delivers the growth. This is the episode that has shaped purely from my real business experience in my own, as well as from my consulting, which is coming out from the real stories, real mistakes, and real breakthroughs that I am witnessing right now. Well, so settle in, because this conversation might be the clarity that you need to guide your business into 2026 with power and purpose, and of course, the passion element. Believe it or not, budgets are always tight, talent is always expensive, and the do everything alone mindset is just burning out the founders. And scaling without discipline is nothing but collapsing early stage companies, founders, and solopreneurs everywhere. That's the truth that we hold in our heart, and that we know that the team decisions are the right strategy decisions. The wrong hires will drain us our time and energy. The right hires will double our productivity. Firing slow always hold our business as a hostage, and scaling without alignment kills momentum. Well, we all know all these points, but what we don't know is how do we really plan that in the implementations, and how do we really align and realign again and again just to have these things in place. Today, we are cutting the noise and diving deep into this real, raw operational truth behind building a high output team, even if the team is just the two people. Well, to start with, I always have this question, especially when the early stage companies are building. How many really outsourced team members that you need? Or, what are those three areas where you need the most help? So, if I look at correct, there are only three teams or three people that you need to build your business. One is, of course, the one who will bring the sales or the customers to you. Second, who will position or bring that operational task to you in a way that your company is scaling. And the third one is given the task is offloading and providing the output. These are the only three people or the three teams that we need, especially when you're just emerging. These are the three essential key areas where you need the right people at the right stage to pour more attention. Otherwise, whatever product that you as a product manager, as a founder, that you're building will not scale up, will not bring you the revenue, and will not do enough. If you're standing at somewhere in between the revenue, somewhere you're not sure about whether you have progressed well, or whether you have even hired the right, let's work backwards and see what you have and what you don't have. To start with, the first and the most important story that I like to mention is, yes, culture, company, values, everything matters. But bringing that clarity as a founder in terms of culture, what values that we stand for, what type of products that we are building, do we have that clarity? If you absolutely have those clarities, then it's time to make sure that is written down, that the company processes are aligned to hire such talent and move further. So, my first and the important tip that I'm diving is, and which is a very well known tip, start small and hire smart. Your first hire is the hire that should remove your friction, you know. So, ask yourself, like, whatever tasks or the operations that you are, defining to hire a person, will this person making your life easier or heavier? And, try small. I would say that if you're, hiring any new person in the team or any new function that you're planning to expand, start small and just try and test out the water whether that's the right hire for you. I mean, of course, budget are the always constraints that we as a startuppreneurs look at, or when the company is in the building stage, the budget, the revenue, that odds are never gonna meet. But what is one thing that becomes an expensive is hiring the wrong talent just to meet your cost bar. If you're in that boat, I would say from my own experience, I've been there, done that, and I know this doesn't work. It's always good to add more cushion and see whether that decision works out. And the way I would do it is, build the right processes for hiring, defining the right operations tasks that a person is going to deliver to you, that is an accountability metrics and the ownership that you're looking out. But unless you define that what they're supposed to do, they don't know the role well. And especially in the startup era, these roles are very gray shades. We want to hire one person to do two to three functions. Then in that case, as a founder, it's our responsibility to tell the truth that you are my first hire and we expect you to go above and beyond and even oversight these functions which are overlapping. So, as a key role, you are going to lay out that foundation. You're going to even list down as a job description, and even you are going to bind that accountability to the person that you are hiring. If you haven't done that, then I would say it's purely a startup founder mistake who hasn't done their the initial work right. Well, that's still not a late. And now that you have understood that there were some misalignments that had happened while you were hiring, And right now you're facing that issue the friction has not removed from operational cycles, whatever the task that they were supposed to deliver, or they were taking the ownership and not doing it. Then probably it's a good idea for you to implement in right here in this week, to go back and talk to your team or your hires, or or your consultant or your freelancers, to realign those roles, to talk about what was missing in the particular year. Also openly going and talking about the mistakes as a founder that you have done, to explain their jobs well. And if you see that the alignment is coming back, I think you have done a part well. Then you could explain that these are the things that where I failed to intimate you, these were things that you were supposed to do, or I was assuming that you would do it, but this just didn't fall in place. Then probably it's time for us to realign. So just go ahead and talk back to your own team members, that what went wrong from your side, what is something that you expected, and just try to give them another months of time to see if you can get your alignment fixed, and get output the way you are looking out. So that's my first tip of the day, that start small, hire smart, but at the same time reflect on your hire smart hires. And if you see the misalignment, going and confessing and talking about it. This is the most crucial function that founders often don't take time, is what I've observed through my own consulting experiences. And then people and processes become the bottleneck. The other point that I would like to elaborate here is, if you know that your team members are not following the processes that you have defined, or there is none, then it is founder focus time that needs to be added to define the processes. Whether do you have certain project tracking tools, or any kind of crms, or whatever that processes that you want to bring into automate tasks, to bring the visibility, so that the entire company is aligned, and the people who are giving the handshake have some clear way of handshake in terms of documentation, as well as the verbal communication, or even handshaking the task. There has to have processes. And if the people that you have hired, or the key role specialists that you have hired, they are unable to define it, as a founder I would say it is your onus to define them. It is your onus to make those kind of discussions and figure out what are the bottlenecks. And if we haven't done that in the entire 2025 year, to figure out on this part, it's time to call a meeting. It's time to do the board meeting with your own key resources, and ask these kind of a questions, and see how your team is responding. Do they know, or are they aware about the processes that they are supposed to follow, or they are still following some of the old routines that were there when they were had come up on the stage. But then later, when you brought certain tools to improvise the processes, or certain automations that people should follow, are they even aware, and are they even trained to carry out certain stuff? So that is something, an important discussion that as a founder you must have in this particular week, if you haven't had a chance to go back and reflect on those areas. One of the close experience that I would like to narrate over here is, there is one small scale company where we are working as a business consultant to them, and we are looking out to how they can double their sales, how they can position their startup, and how they can go out and do the marketing, or reach out for the PR and networking and rest of the stuff that every company needs as their stepping stones further, or while they were looking forward to double down on their revenues. And what we understood is the key hires that they had in the beginning, when the company was just emerging out in the sales and the marketing area, those people are still practicing the old methods, using still the old tools that were like, even the communication that they had used to be on the phones, or, there was not written meeting minutes, or have not, jotting down those documentation for further actions, so that any new person walks into as a team member, or any new department needs to get those updates, there is nothing in process. So every time it is binded to one or two key people, and the company became so much dependent on those key resources, Although they have the CRMs that they need to have in place, they have the project management tools where things have to be added and kept flowing swiftly so that the other people can take quick reports or take certain decisions. Even the CEOs and the CTOs are making certain decisions based on that data, but when it the time comes to reflect or have these things, it became a bottleneck. And what I quickly realize is that people are not aligned with the processes, and the training that was given was not enforced with the performance metrics. So you could train your resources, you could, make sure that they are aware about things and everything. However, the implementation was a bottleneck because people were quite comfortable in their old routines or old style of work, and there was kind of a friction to go ahead, adopt to the new tools, learn, or invest time putting down that documentation. The way we align those processes for that startup is we told them that any new thing that you are implementing, any new process you want to onboard, that is a process you're tying down as their performance metrics, especially in your quarterly reviews, and that needs to be evaluated, and not based on what that person is telling, but actually how the data is reflecting to the tools, to the processes, and whatever that feedback that you get, which should be accountable, measurable, and that's how it can really work. So this is one of the key lesson that I think I have brought. If you are a person, if you are a startup and you are looking forward to scale up, and you are very sure that your people are not following the processes, maybe it's worth trying out this tip, and let me know how this particular tip has turned out for your business. Is it something that has given you that blind spot that you were not sure how to go ahead with? If yes, then give a shout out to Bootstrap Banter or Pranali on your social media, especially at the LinkedIn, telling that this was a very helpful tip that you received. If you're someone who is, struggling and needs somebody outsider to come in and fix your business, to come in and reflect on your business, to audit your business and see where are the bottlenecks, what are the areas because of which your sales are not progressing, because of which your marketing is not positioning well, because of some of the people or processes, whatever that is slowing down, we are here to help you out. Just log on to passionatepulse.com and book a call with us through the contact me form, or just ring us at 341-209-0102, and we'll be here for your business scale. We'll be here and vouching for your business growth. Well, the next and a very important tip that I like to mention is fire your slow guilt and fire fast misalignments. As a founder, you're never firing a person, you're always firing a mismatch. And this is one of the hard lesson or the honest and a brutal truth that I have realized myself, that especially when it came down to dissolving certain teams that I had hired for myself, it was like, uttermost emotional decision, because there were certain resources, they were good, very, very good in terms of whatever that they were supposed to do. However, there were few things that were just not aligned right for the productivity. And the other cases are like, the people that I hired were really, really the wrong players, because either I was not aligned myself for the roles that I was hiring, and I was mixing up with people's intent versus their skills, or their strength versus their capacity. And this is especially when I'm hiring the freelancer. This is where I have figured out the pattern that goes really wrong. And as a founder, this is our duty to figure out whether we have that alignment in place, and if yes, then what is that is causing the bottleneck in the productivity or getting the output, or finding that ownership in your freelancers, or in the outsider teams, or the temporary teams that you are hiring, even the full time. It's the same thing. Is it a skills issue? Is it a strength issue? Is it a process issue? Or is it a simply mismatch with your culture issue? What is that causing a misalignment? It should be purely your call as a founder, or as a the CEO and the C-suite executive for that particular department. However, These are the important emotions to overcome, because when you're growing a business, it's a very serious affair. Thinking of a business, I always feel it's an analogy very close to as if you're growing your child and you would do right things for your child to grow up. Think about an incident when your child is probably in after school or the daycare, where you knew that certain things are just not right. It's not the teacher who are wrong over there, but certain environments that he's in is not right. And what is that, as a parent, as a mother, as a father, you could have taken a decision. Although there is one or two people right besides that, but the entire environment is not helpful for your child to grow. You would have simply taken out your child from that after school or daycare or even the school, or you would take right measurements and evaluate and take a decision right there, then and there itself. It's the same thing with your businesses. Don't overthink, don't get into that emotional dilemma, but you have to have a right environment created, and that right environment will only be brought by the people. So if those peoples are totally misaligned with your culture values or the type of work or the productivity and the accountability, it's time to rethink on your misalignments and just try out the hard steps. I know this is a very hard and a very emotional step in early startup founder stage, because the exact emotions that you would go through it, if I tend to let go this particular person from my own team, that means I have a gap to fill. That means I have to take out time to build another resource and get up to this level. However, it is all worth it, especially when you know that things have not worked or have come up to the result in spite of you doing that work prior to a quarter, prior to an year, or prior to a couple of years. So whatever that time length, wherever that you are at, but it is worth taking that decision, creating the gap and creating the time for yourself, rather than reworking on somebody's output or going and cleaning up certain things. I would say take out this time. It's a very hard decision, especially as a early stage founders, I know, because the budget constraints that comes into the picture, the time that you're going to invest into the picture for building and training another resource or bringing up to the speed, or even, helping someone understand what you're building, all of it is worth, my dear friends. Having said that, I have tried these options, and that's when I'm saying, like, this is worth taking out time for, because sometimes you can't keep fixing people, and that is an amount of time and energy you are investing just to keep up, or just to keep up on your budget or whatever that priority matrix for you that looks at that particular time. However, the moment you are not getting the ownership, not getting the productivity, all of it is just good to have, and the amount that you are paying is actually doubling down with your sweat, your time and energy, and the time that's lapsing from scaling up your business. So this, I know it's a very tricky area to handle, but if you're someone as a founder and would like to talk about it and just get some clarity, we are here to help. Just knock our doors on passionatepulse.com/contact, and we are here and we can guide you further. The third and a very important tip is the culture and a strategy. Culture is equal to the strategy. Culture brings the values, culture brings the expectations, and culture can define your realignment for your businesses. So, this is a most important point. If you haven't defined any of it, if you don't know what values your company should stand for, then it's time to define the products that you're building, what values that it should hold on to. There are tons of experiences that you have where you can draw the values where you are aligned, and just try to strategically align your business with it. Finding out the expectations from the hires that you are doing, finding out the ownership mindset, the communication style, whether you need the process oriented people over there, or you need someone who is very smart and not following the processes but bringing out the innovation for that particular role. It could go with various aspects and angles, but if your team can't deliver what you have designed for that particular role, then it's an absolute failure. And this is where, I can bring up many more examples from, the bigger companies to even the smaller companies. And it's something that is a lesson to learn. The Southwest Airline is a great example when it comes down to culture equals style. They hire the employees or they hire their staff exactly for humor, heart, and humanity. In the low margin airline industry, where, the domestic airlines are not making much of a profit, they're operating on a shoestring budget. The Southwest has won way ahead. And, the way they have won is by hiring the right side of people, the with personality and the positivity, then their lesson is very simple. When the job is stressful, the emotional intelligence is their revenue driver. In fact, they have designed a company such that every area has certain budget allocated, and those particular heads can take decisions without asking for higher authorities for the budget approvals. So I think that's one of the amazing example that we are looking at when it comes down to that culture equals strategy. Going forward, reassign before you replace. So in that case, there is always this strategy that you could execute. Can you reassign some people? I'm sure as a founder, when you're working out with certain people, you are, very sure, like, certain people are good with certain skills. They have their strengths and they have their weaknesses as a person, as a human beings. Maybe it's worth trying out. The people that you have hired for sales probably are very good at marketing, and put them and check whether that marketing department is flourishing or you're getting more output. Some people say that, okay, they are very good at, let's say, bringing the marketing or the positioning. However, in reality, they are just good at doing the operational task. Then, can you get someone who can guide that strategy at a fraction of the cost and get the more output done or the actual labor work done from the person that you have hired? These are always the scales that we have to balance as a founder, but just see, move them and see whether that is kind of helping them shine, or the striving into their roles, and just try to see whether this works. If that works, then at least you have saved the resource, at least you have managed your operation cycle, and going forward from there is at least a successful step that you have taken in your own business. And the fifth and a very important tip that I should mention is build a lean, sharp, and high output team. And how you do that is a simple thing. As I said, like, if you are a solopreneur and hiring one assistant, maybe you have to make sure that one assistant is doing multiple jobs and is very good at juggling those particular jobs with the priority when the time comes to take certain actions. Founders hiring your third engineer will think about it. Is it something that is really needed, or it is something that is for the operational purpose? Whether you're hiring a founding engineer or hiring the operational engineer, there are multiple places where you have to make these kind of lean, sharp, and high output team worthy decisions. And the third thing is service businesses that you're hiring as your next customer success representative or whatever are aligned with your culture, are aligned to shape up next what you're building. And never hire for the people that is just smoothing out your today's time, but always hire people for what you're building for future, and keep that in mind and do the right investment by yourself. And that's when the things can move faster, easier, and that's called as a mission driving hiring. However, those are the only 5 tips with which, if you decide to operate, you'll have the right people besides you to scale up your company. You'll have right people walking out of your company to create a space for the new ones to join in and give you the fuel for where you are looking to march. And building a lean, sharp, high output team, it's something that is within the founder's focus, within the founder's budget. And the only thing that you need is realigning yourself again and again and reevaluating with whatever functions that you have delegated to create the output, to design those metrics, and following the certain processes to make sure that this operates smooth. You as a founder yourself is not disciplined or don't have these processes in terms of hiring, then I think you will add up more and more chaos for yourself. And as a founder focused time, you will be spending more and more time into the operations to become smooth, or cleaning up somebody's work that is supposed to be owned or accountable and giving you the output. So those are like, one of the important segments to focus as a founder's life. And especially when we are approaching close to the holiday time, these are the, some food for thought for founders, especially out of my own experience while working and building my own startup, as well as while working with other businesses as a consultant and coming up and helping them smoothen their operations, processes, people, and building their sales pipeline. So that's where, I have spotted this, that people, process, and the purpose have to get aligned. And the moment we do that very quickly is when, we are kind of easing out our life and gaining back that founder focused time. Well, let me know how this episode has turned out too. Is there anything that you learned new? Is there anything that you are thinking to implement? You were only thinking, but now with this particular episode, you have been, ignited to take that right step for your business because you want to grow that business baby as smart as your child. Is it something that's really helping you grow? Is it helping you scale? Is it helping you provide the retrospection points for your own businesses that you haven't thought earlier, or you haven't pushed yourself harder to get to the right place that you were supposed to? If yes, then that is the success of Bootstrap Banter. Let me know what next you would like to hear, what type of topic you want me to bring. And this is a listener focused, and although this is a founder focused podcast, I would say it is the feedback loop listener focused podcast too, where we want to know what exactly you want to hear, which type of success tips for the businesses that we should be, curating from the Bootstrap Banter. And feel free to call us at 341-209-0102. I'll also like to mention there are multiple workshops that we line up for the founder focus mentality. And there is one upcoming, if you want to register, how to build your boundaries as a founder. That's the particular workshop that we are bringing up. If you're someone, listening out this particular episode after the workshop is already done and looking forward to join the waitlist for that workshop, just send us an email at info@passionatepulse.com, and we'll add you to the wait list for the, the next workshops, live workshop sessions that we curate for the founders. And we also do one-on-one strategy with the founders in that particular workshop. But if not, the recorded workshops are something that we are planning in 2026. I hope that is something is going to be a new treat for all of you listeners. So remember, before you depart from this episode, you don't scale because you hustle harder. You always scale because you choose the right people besides you. People who hold your mission with you. People who lift your businesses when you get tired. People who transform hours into the outcomes is what you're looking forward. And sometimes growth begins with hiring right. Sometimes it begins with firing right. And always it begins with the clarity in your founder's mind. So, this Bootstrap Banter, where we bring real raw truth of building from scratch without the permission, without waiting for anyone else to tell you what to do, and without losing your fire in belly. Let's go build your dream and with the right team. That is the message from this particular episode. This is Pranali signing off from this Bootstrap Banter. Stay tuned to next Bootstrap Banter. Till then, stay focused, stay passionate.